Okay, next on the agenda we have Eliza. And Eliza's doing Asylum Seekers Deserve to be Treated Humanely. Thanks, Eliza.
You know that the boat with you on it can capsize or send you to your death at any moment. I'm going to die in the next minute is all you think. The whole time you feel like you're being chased. The fear of a man or a person who hasn't done anything wrong, yet at the same time, everybody wants to have a go at you and sentence you to your death or torture you. You're with people you don't want to be with. Smugglers who take your money with a promise. It's a dark world. I had no alternative. No country would give me rights. Rights to live, rights to work. I was being chased, although I wasn't doing anything wrong. If I was captured, I would be tortured. And in my country, you can be tortured every day of your life. So I needed to leave. For Walid, the decision to flee Iraq was his only option. He faced the constant fear of having his ears cut off and branded with a cross under Saddam Hussein's regime. The fear of torture and death, or to leave and live. How many of you here have been faced with that same decision? The decision to stay in your homeland, face the prospect of torture and persecution, or to flee to an unknown country, with the uncertainty of surviving the journey. How desperate must you be to make that decision? These decisions, thousands of refugees are forced to make every day. The decision no one should have to make. Then why are we attacking these blameless people? Why are we denying people like Walid, who already lived through hell, a second chance? Why are we so inconsiderate of the pain and suffering of others and so willing to just send them back to where they came from? When will we stop seeing them as boat people and recognise that they are in fact valiant people? Asylum seekers deserve to be treated humanely, not tagged with derogatory names like boat people and illegals. Why should they suffer the racism and scathing vitriol of our nation? These people are not arriving illegally. They are not doing anything wrong. So we need to stop targeting them as the villains attacking our shores. Asylum seekers are too often described as illegals, but this is wrong. Under the UN Refugee Convention, to which Australia is a signatory, unauthorised entry into Australia is permitted for the purpose of seeking asylum. To put this simply, we Australians recognise the hostile conditions which refugees flee from. We permit their entry onto our shores. We claim we will protect anyone who seeks asylum in Australia. Refugees have the right to enter our country, regardless if they hold valid documentations or not. It is their right. They are not doing anything illegal, yet we disregard our own law and are convinced these villains are swamping our open shores. For thousands of refugees, seeking asylum is their last option. It is either face death or attempt to find safety in another country. They live in the constant fear for their lives and for their families. And the way we are treating asylum seekers is just becoming another shameful chapter in our history. In our national anthem we sing, "For those who come across the seas with boundless plans to share." This verse is rarely sung. Does that reflect our attitude towards our acceptance of refugees? Perhaps not. Can we consider ourselves a diverse and multicultural society if we're so willing to send these innocent asylum seekers back to where they came from? Perhaps not. We call ourselves a multicultural society, but do we truly deserve that title when we are pushing away the people who will bring us the cultural diversity? Our lack of empathy and compassion goes against everything we claim to stand for in society. Australia is no longer a remote and isolated island on its own, but part of a wider global community. It's time we show our neighbours the respect and humanity they deserve. Australia recognises the dangerous situations in many countries around the world. We know that they have risked everything in desperation to reach our shores. Then why do we place these desperate people in prison-like detention centres? Places where asylum seekers would rather die than live in our solution for refugees. In Nauru, the compounds are extremely cramped, leaving no room for privacy and no shelter from the heat, humidity and rain. They have corrugated iron roofs, no windows and only 2 small fans were shared between 112 men. These men are also only provided with 1/10 of the water they need. Would we treat our animals like this? Asylum seekers have already lived through hell. Why are we just putting them through such appalling conditions again? Detention centres hold beds without mattresses, toilets without doors and showers without curtains, stripping these refugees of any privacy. Is this how we Australians treat asylum seekers with compassion and respect? Our detention centres are an offence to human dignity. We don't treat convicted felons like this. Today, there are 1,700 people held at Nauru Detention Centre. People who have done nothing wrong. In 2011, 3,500 real criminals convicted of real crimes were granted parole. In an uncomprehendable way, the government is allowing for 3,500 criminals to walk our neighbourhoods, yet lock 1,700 blameless people away. These refugees are being denied a second chance. The 1,700 innocent people are held in unhealthy and vulnerable places. Why should the blameless be locked away? We should be conceding to asylum seekers' rights, admiring their courage to risk everything in desperation to reach our shores. Asylum seekers have done nothing wrong. Why do we condemn them? The harsh conditions and uncertainties are causing psychological damage to these people, and in effect, detention centres have alarming levels of self-harm. In Nauru, if you're not lucky enough to be placed in a tiny, unair-conditioned room with bunk beds without mattresses, you're crammed into a tent with 13 other people. Because the island is in the tropics, these tents are turned into furnaces, and the intense heat is complemented by torrential downfall that floods these tents. Detention centres are often described as a nightmare that will never end by many of the blameless refugees living there. For many refugees, they would rather die than instead of living on Nauru. And for one protester, death would be better than existing like that. But unfortunately, this causes no concern for our government, which continues its appalling treatment of asylum seekers. Some of these people held in detention centres have put themselves on hunger strikes. They starve themselves, hoping the government will concede to their rights. Their bodies are famished. Their muscles begin to break down, and vital organs are slowly destroyed. Loss of bone marrow becomes life-threatening. Some refugees have attempted suicide to protest against their mistreatment, to expose the truth behind this inhumanity. Former PM Gillard has said their methods will not get them anywhere. Her unsympathetic words portraying our government's attitude towards asylum seekers. Current PM Tony Abbott is no better in his handling of the situation. He believes that if you jump the queue, if you take yourself and your family on a leaky boat, that's doing the wrong thing. So, apparently attempting to escape war and oppression in your homeland is now the wrong thing to do. Unfortunately, so many ignorant Australians agree with this. The irony here is we are a country made up of boat people to begin with. We are made of a nation of boat people who just fear more boat people and somehow disregard their equality to us. We've been spoon-fed the fear that asylum seekers are the human tidal wave that's attacking our shores. We've been fed these insensitive and sadistic attitudes from the media, and we just consume it. What hope do asylum seekers have if everyone is conditioned to think they're the villains? We should treat these people fleeing horrors with the respect they deserve. Now imagine you are bullied. You have decided to flee to an unknown country. You step onto the boat with the uncertainty of surviving the journey at sea. For days on end, your stomach churns with seasickness. You are starving. You confined to a small space, crammed in with 35 other desperate refugees. I'm going to die in the next minute, is all you think. You watch as bodies are thrown overboard, the refugees who perish at sea. Finally, the grueling journey is over. Your boat is intercepted, and you pray you'll be taken to a better place. Instead, you were taken to Nauru, a place where you're stripped of any hope you have left. You have lived in war zones. You've survived the bombs and explosions back home. Now, you must live through hell again. Now, you must face the inhumanity of Australia. Thank you.
Ms. Stark was just saying, and we all agree, the quality of speeches this morning already has just been mind-blowing. Eliza, when you were talking then, my heart was literally pounding, and you should be the poster girl for how to speak, how to use pause, and you pace yourself, and just... So, to the four speakers this morning, thank you, and you're a great inspiration to the rest of us, and the people that are going to take part in the rest of the public speaking.